Episode 15, Dominating Throughout. It feels like my body has been drained. Don't worry, let me see which scene to choose. Director Gui Qixing excitedly flipped through the script. Ningxi was eagerly thinking, Director, please choose scene number 46. If I act in that scene right now, I'll definitely perform exceptionally well. In that scene, Sun Huanqing rescued a girl in the army camp, and the girl seduced him, leading Meng Chang'e to misunderstand him for cheating and give him a beating. Jiong Mai, as if reading her mind, bent slightly and whispered in her ear, Darling, do you want to act in the scene where you beat me up? Ningxi jumped away from him as if she had been electrified. You jerk, stay away from me. Thanks to this guy, her resentment level had now reached the point where 10 oxen couldn't pull it away. She could already imagine the reception she would get from Jia Qingqing, Ning Xuelua, and especially Jia Qingqing. Life was tough enough, this was just adding insult to injury. Ningxi knew she was destined to be disappointed. The director wouldn't arrange for her to beat up Jiong Mai on his first day. After a moment's thought, she suggested, how about scene 37? Ningxi had already memorized the script, and after a quick recollection, she remembered what scene 37 was about. Her expression darkened on the spot. Although it wasn't a bed scene or a kissing scene, it wasn't much better. It was a scene where Meng Chang'e teased Sun Huanqing. The director called the two of them over and began explaining the scene to them. Meng's family has been known for generations for their military achievements. Their prestigious reputation put the general's household in a precarious position. The current ruler is incompetent and gullible, and this led to the death of Meng Chang'e's father in battle. Fortunately, Meng Changfeng, his elder brother, took over their father's role, ensuring that Meng Chang'e's life remained carefree. He spent his days causing trouble in Chang'an City. When the director mentioned the troublemaker part, Jiong Mai glanced at Ningxi and, using his lips, said, You kind of resemble that role. Ningxi ignored him and continued to listen attentively. This troublemaker dressed in men's clothing all the time, with none of the characteristics of a young girl. But at the age of 16, she saw Sun Huanqing on the street and fell in love with him at first sight, following him around every day. Jiong Mai raised his hand to speak, Director, isn't this a female version of a bully abducting an innocent flower? This guy's the real bully. Director Gui Qixing coughed lightly and praised, Mai, you understood it well, it's more or less like that. So, the key point I want to emphasize is that your previous roles were strong-willed and proactive, but this time is the complete opposite. So, you must be mindful of the shift. Hearing this, Ningxi felt a bit worried as well. This guy had previously portrayed characters like domineering CEOs, student council presidents, and royal heirs. Could he handle the role of Meng Chang'e, a soft-spoken and gentle physician? Jiong Mai nodded understandingly and said, I get it, Director. I'll be the weaker and coerced one. Director Gui Qixing looked at both of them with some concern. He was more worried about Ningxi, fearing that a woman like her might not be able to convey Meng Chang'e's streetwise and ruffian-like qualities. I chose this scene because it best reflects the feelings between the two of you. In this scene, most of the time, one of you will be carefree and nonchalant, while the other will be gentle and reserved. If you can perform well in this scene, the rest should go smoothly. Alright, that's all for now. Practice will reveal the truth. Both of you, go get changed in your costumes. Ningxi was the first to finish her makeup and came out. Dressed as a clean-cut, red and white-clad young martial artist, she tied her hair in a handsome high ponytail, her dark eyebrows were well-defined, and she exuded a heroic aura. She perfectly embodied the 16-year-old Meng Chang'e that she was set to portray. Even those who had previously been reluctant to accept Ningxi had to admit that her appearance was flawless. Director Gui Qixing had initially been worried that a beautiful actress like Ningxi might have a limited range in her roles. To his pleasant surprise, her versatility was much stronger than he had expected. He praised her and then reminded her with some concern, Ningxi, later on, you must let loose and not carry any idle baggage, alright? In this scene, the more gangster you are, the better. Director, you can rest assured. I believe she can definitely do it. Jiong Mai, having changed into his costume, walked out of the dressing room as well. The moment Jiong Mai walked out, the whole place was filled with gasps of astonishment. Even Ningxi couldn't help but raise an eyebrow in surprise. Jiong Mai's appearance had completely transformed after he was dressed up. He wore a long green robe with bamboo patterns, his face was like a piece of jade, and his brows exuded gentleness, as if he had walked straight out of an ancient painting. Jiong Mai looked at the stunned Ningxi and said, "How do I look? Doesn't this outfit make me incredibly handsome?" Unfortunately, he ruined it the moment he opened his mouth. Ningxi maintained a humble expression as if discussing the script with Jiong Mai. She uttered 3 words, very submissive. What do you mean? Unfortunately for you, in this play, you'll be dominated by me from start to finish. Is that so? How come I remember there's a scene where I make a comeback? It's even a bed scene, tsk. Not far away, Jia Qingqing watched as the two occasionally whispered to each other, biting each other's ears. She was overwhelmed with jealousy. As soon as Jiong Mai arrived, all the attention was on him, and he didn't even spare a glance in her direction. She didn't even have the opportunity to greet him. Ning Xuelua, who was next to her, had been comforting her in a soft voice. "Qingqing, don't be too upset. Things have turned out this way, and in the entertainment industry, luck is also a part of one's ability. Ningxi has indeed been lucky to be able to work with Jiong Mai. After this drama, she'll probably at least make it to the second-tier actress list, possibly even the first tier." "Humph, the first tier? Dare to snatch what's mine? Does she think I'll let her get away with it?" Jia Qingqing's originally lovely face now looked twisted and sinister. "Qingqing, don't be too impulsive. The company is planning to promote Ningxi heavily. If you quarrel with her, it might not end well." "What if it doesn't end well? Do you think I'd be afraid of a fox spirit who only knows how to seduce men?" Hearing that the company was planning to promote Ningxi, Jia Qingqing was even more furious. After all, her acting style was similar to Ningxi's. If the company promoted Ningxi, it would likely divert many resources from her. Watching the already agitated Jia Qingqing, Ning Xuelua couldn't help but curl her lips in secret satisfaction. With Jia Qingqing wielding this knife, she didn't need to intervene personally. She could just sit back and watch the show. However, Ningxi seemed to be having an unusually lucky streak recently. She needed to be cautious. "Where's Xiao Cui? Is the prop ready?" Director Gui Qixing shouted. Coming. Director, do you think this one works?" The props master brought over a thick hemp rope. "Perfect." Gui Qixing nodded and then beckoned to Jiong Mai. "Mai, I'm sorry to inconvenience you." "No inconvenience at all, it's all part of the filming process." Jiong Mai appeared very professional and lay down on an intricately carved large bed, allowing the props master to bind both his hands and feet. Indeed, as the director had mentioned, this scene was quite intense. After being rejected by Sun Huanqing when confessing his love, Meng Chang'e decided to take matters into his own hands and tied him up in their residence. The little girls at the scene watched this scene and started a new round of madness. "Ah, Makino's bondage play. I dream of tying up Makino and throwing him onto the bed. Why are you so excited? It won't be you later. I'm so angry, why is it that annoying vixen? Yeah, it's really annoying. Can't Makino tell the director to replace him? She is not worthy of Makino at all." Gui Qixing coughed to signal everyone to be quiet, then clapped his hands and shouted, "Okay, all departments get ready, 3, 2, 1. Action." Ningxi was not affected by the noise around her at all. As soon as the director finished speaking, her eyes changed instantly. Clean and clear, energetic like the sun, with a lazy and casual expression on her face. She lifted the hem of her clothes, raised her feet, and kicked open her own door. Then the camera switched to Jiong Mai's side. I saw the young man lying on the bright red bed curtain with his hands and feet tied. This color made his face even paler and weaker. Hearing the sound of kicking the door, Sun Huanqing slowly opened his eyes and looked at the girl walking against the light in front of the bed with a slightly tranced expression. Meng Chang'e sat down on the edge of the bed and took out an oil paper bag from his arms. "I lined up for an hour to buy the candied chestnuts from Fuxing Tower. Do you want to eat them?" Sun Huanqing turned his head away, closed his eyes, and looked like he didn't want to pay any attention to her at all. Meng Chang'e peeled one off and threw it into his mouth, with a sly smile on his face. "Don't want to eat? Then I will feed you. In a way that might embarrass you." "You?" Sun Huanqing suddenly opened his eyes filled with anger and shame. "How can you, a girl, be so shameless?" Meng Chang'e glanced at him sideways and raised his eyebrows. "Shame? What's the use of shame? Can you kill enemies on the spot, or can you still get a wife?" Sun Huanqing's face was full of anger. "The Meng family has been loyal for generations. Your ancestors all fought for the country on the battlefield, but you spent your whole day being uneducated and bullying men and women. How can you be worthy of the Meng family ancestors? Meng Chang'e had already heard these words from the people around him and picked his ears with his fingers. With a chestnut bulging in his mouth, he shouted, "You are already old and not yet married. There are 3 ways to be unfilial. It is the greatest to have no heirs. How can you be worthy of your Sun family ancestors?" Sun Huanqing was almost angered to death by her sophistry, and said with a calm expression, "These are 2 different things, not to mention that Sun's ambition is not here." Meng Chang'e stepped on the edge of the bed, and swung the whip in her hand at Sun Huanqing's body, and finally pressed it lightly against his chin. Her face was like a cunning and naughty little fox. "Dr. Sun, how about this? I'll be your wife. When I become your wife, I will listen to you in everything in the future. If you ask me to go east, I won't go west. Let me learn well, and I will obey you obediently. In this way, aren't our ancestors all worthy of it?" Sun Huanqing was stunned for a moment, and a trace of haste flashed across his face. "You, stop talking nonsense." Meng Chang'e seemed to have discovered a new world. She came closer and almost touched his face. "Hey? Dr. Sun, you are blushing. You actually like me too, right? Cut." Until the director called cut, everyone was still reluctant. "Why don't you keep acting? Why don't you keep acting? I want to keep watching." The actors on both sides had similar strengths, and their performances were exceptional. Especially, Ningxi's acting completely immersed them in the play, to the extent that all their previous reservations about her vanished. Initially, they didn't want Ningxi to be near their beloved idol, but in the end, they were eager to have her around and became as excited to see her as they would be to see their idol. Of course, once they came back to their senses, they still disliked Ningxi and all flocked around Jiong, praising his outstanding acting skills. Today, apart from Jia Qingqing, the most frustrated person was probably Zhao Xizhou. He was initially the highest-ranked actor on the set and very popular with the girls. However, with Jiang Mai's arrival, all the attention shifted to him, and his side suddenly felt deserted. As for the happiest person, it was undoubtedly the director. Today, the scenes shot by Ningxi and Jiang Mai went smoothly, and the 2 of them seemed to have cooperated 100 times before, displaying great chemistry. For Ningxi, today could be summed up in 8 words: spectacular and a new lease on life. As they were about to wrap up for the day, Jiang Mai was surrounded by a group of people inviting him for a meal, to welcome him and clean up the dust. Ningxi was busy packing her things, and her phone rang from inside her bag. Looking at the caller ID, it was Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli's number had been forcefully saved in her phone a few days ago. Why was this guy calling her now? Ningxi was puzzled as she found a corner to answer the call. "Hello, second young master? Hello, little she?" Lu Jingli's voice on the other end sounded weak, as if he had been completely drained. Ningxi was bewildered. "What's wrong with you? What's wrong? I want to ask you, what happened with my brother last night?" Lu Jingli was frustrated and demanding. Ningxi was at a loss. "Huh? What do you mean? What could I possibly do to him?" "You didn't do anything to him, but why is he in a raging state all day today? He's been in a meeting since 8 in the morning, and it's been a full 12 hours now." "Well, this is a matter related to your company. It shouldn't have anything to do with me, right? Maybe he had a lot of work to catch up on after taking a long vacation?" "Impossible. I've known my brother for so long that I can tell what he's thinking with just one look. This is definitely related to you. You've caused this. He's practically driving everyone in the company to death. Our finance department head even fainted, and I'm sure his ghost is on its way to find you." Ningxi was truly at a loss. "I really didn't do anything. The only thing that might have happened last night was when she went to the airport to pick up Jiang Mai and ended up being seen by Lu Tingxiao while she was taking a shower. Could it be because of that? But his reactions afterwards were perfectly normal, weren't they? I don't care. It's because of you. You must fix this. Otherwise, we won't let you off even when we're dead and become ghosts. Just now, the head of our finance department fainted, and his ghost is definitely on its way to find you." This was absurd. She was completely innocent. She was being unfairly accused. What was she supposed to do now? What could she do to help them? This was like an international joke. As Ningxi was worrying, she received a multimedia message from Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli sent her 2 pictures. One was a photo of a man being carried away on a stretcher, apparently having fainted, and the other was a photo of the entire meeting room. Everyone around the conference table looked terrified as if they were awaiting judgment from a stern king. The main seat, occupied by Lu Jingtian, seemed to be the king judging them. Through the pictures, Ningxi could almost feel a chilling and eerie aura. Why should she go to rescue Lu Tingxiao while he was playing the final judgment? Lu Jingli's call was utterly baffling. Initially, Ningxi had decided to wash her hands of the situation, but for some inexplicable reason, a tiny sense of guilt was nagging at the depths of her heart. Why did she have to feel guilty? She had decided to leave it be, but then Lu Jingli sent another video. In the video, Lu Tingxiao's gaze was piercing and cold as he looked directly into the camera. This startled Ningxi, and it took her a moment to realize that he was probably addressing Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli, you have half an hour to redo the project proposal for me, right here, right now. If you can't do it, you'll be responsible for the payroll of the finance department yourself. Then, the video screen went black. In that split second when the screen went black, she almost felt like she could see Lu Jingli's final cries of desperation and his plea for help. Even as an outsider, she knew that redoing a project proposal within half an hour was an impossible task. However, she genuinely had no idea how to help him. Ningxi's brain raced, and the 36 stratagems of Sun Tzu's art of war swirled through her mind. To feign madness and disorder? Lu Jingli's vengeful spirit would haunt her. To capture the ringleader first? Lu Tingxiao was the ringleader. To sow discord in the enemy's camp? Where was the enemy's camp for her to sow discord? Could it be a seduction plan? No. In the end, Ningxi slapped her head. I've got it. Lure the tiger away from the mountain. Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself and called Lu Tingxiao. At the same time, at Lu Group. In the meeting room, the large screen was connected to Lu Tingxiao's phone, playing internal data. The top executives below were paying full attention because Lu Tingxiao was about to raise some questions. This was just as terrifying as being asked a question by a teacher when they were children. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao's phone suddenly rang. Without even glancing at it, he casually answered the call, and the next second, the voice of a sweet and tender woman came through the speaker connected to his phone. Hello, Lu Tingxiao, are you busy? We promised to take little treasure out for hot pot tonight, didn't we? Huh? In an instant, the expressions of all the top executives froze. Wasn't this the boss's private phone? A woman was calling and addressing him so sweetly. What's more, they were shocked by what came next. After hearing that voice, Lu Tingxiao's entire demeanor seemed to subtly change. It was like a refreshing breeze from the mortal world was blowing through the amaryllis flowers on the Naiha Bridge. In the midst of an impossible task, Lu Jingli was listening to the familiar voice and couldn't contain his excitement. Tears welled up in his eyes. Sis-in-law, you're finally here. After hearing the voice, Lu Tingxiao only paused for a moment before removing the data cable connecting the device. He placed the phone near his ear and maintained his expression, showing no signs of change. His tone was as cold and stern as ever. Do you have something to say? On the other end of the phone, Ningxi, who had used a softer and more pleading tone, stuttered, well, are you coming home tonight? We promised to take little treasure for hot pot, remember? Lu Tingxiao replied with the same icy tone, I'm busy, I might not make it.